Wagwan people, Uncle Andrew there in the building. And if you look around, we're celebrating the 60th anniversary Independence Day of Jamaica. So look around. I will bring you all the festivity as the time goes on. So you stay right there, so stay right in your seat. All right, you like, subscribe, do everything. Peace up.
Guests. So, by way of introduction, the Honourable Judge Norman O. Hemming III has served for 14 years with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida and a total of over 18 years with the United States Department of Justice. He's a federal administrative law judge in the South Florida hearing office of the Social Security Administration. He also served as special counsel to the U.S. Attorney as a member of a 5-person executive team, helping supervise over 235 attorneys, prosecutors, and an equal number of support staff members, serving 4 consolidated prosecuting officers from Key West through Fort Pierce. Judge Norman volunteers his time as an ordained minister with the Cooper City Church of God. Additionally, Judge Norman serves as a member of the Vice Provost's Council for Florida International University, raising and dispensing hundreds of thousands of dollars in free tuition scholarships to Florida students hailing from low socioeconomic backgrounds like himself. Judge Norman is the first federal administrative judge to simultaneously serve as a jurist and seek non-partisan elected office as a candidate for Miramar City Commission Seat 1 in his home locale of Miramar, Florida. Judge Norman is a committed public servant and currently serves on the executive board of the Florida chapter of the Jamaican College Old Boys Association, of which he is a proud alumnus of Jamaica's College Chambers House. Ladies and gentlemen, please join with me and put your hands together to welcome our distinguished keynote speaker this evening, Judge Norman Orlando Hemming III.
Hi, good evening everyone. I know the hour is late and all protocols observed. In fact, the introduction is going to be a lot longer than my actual speech. In fact, you might notice that I'm very irreverent because I'm here today and I'm wearing a tuxedo with tan shoes just to show how rude, right, I am, right? In addition to that, I'm barely fitting into my tuxedo because I've been spending the last 2 years of COVID eating as much as I can in front of my TV. But it's good to be with all of you here in England today. The title of my very, very short speech here this late night is going to be and this was against the advice of the chief constable. He told me, don't call your speech that. The title of the speech is Never Underestimate the Second Choice. All right. It's interesting because all of you have some relationship to Jamaica or some affinity for Jamaica, and it's really good to see each and every one of you out this evening. Now, there is one thing about Jamaicans. Every Jamaican that you meet will tell you that they're from Kingston. It's a lie, right? Because all of them wouldn't live in Kingston. The other thing that you hear is that Jamaicans have difficulty pronouncing 3. They always say 3. And I know many of you are thinking, oh, they just can't speak properly. No, it's actually a part of their heritage and history. You see, there are people who understand that the original language of their slave ancestors was the Twi language out of Africa. And so perhaps one good thing to get everyone involved here this evening is if you could do this for me. Good. If you don't mind standing for just 1 brief second. Right? And so one little phrase out of the Twi language coming out of Africa is Amama Ni, and we're going to add to that Amama Ni Jamaica. So if you could say to the person sitting to your left and your right, Amama Ni Jamaica. Great, you may be seated. You just told your neighbor you're fat and ugly. choice. One thing about the slaves who were brought to Jamaica, many of them came through this place called Ouida. So you know in Ghana how you have the gate of no return. Well, in Ouida, in Benin, it is called the door of no return. And so many of the slaves who were being brought over to Jamaica were in fact the second choice of slaves. In fact, many of the slaves, when they were marched all the way to Ouida, they passed away before being put on the slave ships. And so they were buried in a mass grave in Ouida. Now what's interesting about Ouida is that it has a connection to Jamaica's 60th anniversary today. You see, because the Ouida people had a very strong and important and vibrant economy for some 60 years, until they became dominated by another group of people, the second choice for that area of the world, called the Dahomey. You may know them as the Dahomey Amazons, right? For those of you who are into cartoons. But they call themselves the Dahomey Agoji. And now these Dahomey Agoji, they're the first fully organized military group of thousands of military members who were made up solely of women. They were one of the fiercest and strongest military organizations that the world has ever known. The other thing about the second choice set of people called the Agoji, or the Dahomey Amazons as you may know, is that they were the second choice of a military outfit for their king. Because what had happened is that the men, had all done such a horrible job fighting in the war that when they put these women together, they became a strong, effective military fighting force. And that is why you may notice that many of the strongest, most vibrant, most resilient members of the Jamaican community are people who don't wear tiny shoes with a tuxedo. They're the women in the Jamaican community. Put your hands together for these women. But they're not the only second choice. Because as you know, this city in which you're living is called the second city in the United Kingdom. Isn't that right? I know, Chief Constable, I shouldn't say that it's irreverent, right? But it's called the second city. And although it's the second city, you would say it's the city of the second choice of where people would live. However, without this city of Birmingham, without this great city, many of the military expeditions that were carried out by the British military would not have been successful outside of the industrial, hard-working persons from Birmingham. Is that right? So although you were the second choice, you were first in everything that was great, everything that was amazing, and everything that was good. There's something about the second choice. People hate being called the second choice. However, it seems that throughout our history, the second choice persons have been the people who have done some of the greatest things historically. So there is another city also called Birmingham in the United States. And this city in the United States that's called Birmingham is named after your great city. But unlike your great city, it's a city that has a very horrible past. In fact, it was known as Birmingham. It was known as Birmingham because so many black children were killed and blown up in Birmingham. And there were so many hangings of people who looked like me that took place in Birmingham in the United States, that this lady by the name of Ida B. Wells came here. On her first trip here to this city of Birmingham, no one really turned out to speak with her. But in her second choice, in her second trip here to Birmingham, she got the audience with each and every one of your ancestors here in the city of Birmingham. And some of you may even be alive who were here when she was here. And because she was able to speak to you and to convince you of the seriousness and the greatness of the plight affecting people of Birmingham in the United States, you were instrumental in transforming what was happening in that city. One of the things you may know about Birmingham is that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King wrote a letter from that city, from a jail that was there. It's called a letter from Birmingham jail. It was a letter written to the ministers, right, that were in that city, who were telling him to wait. Now, interesting about the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, we see him today, and we think of him today as always being the first choice. But that wasn't the case. In fact, he was the second choice of the people in Birmingham in the United States to lead the civil rights movement. Were you aware of that? In fact, he was new to the city. He was a new minister in the city. And they say he'll be dumb enough to take this assignment that clearly is not going to be successful. In addition, all the senior ministers in the city refused to participate at that time. And so this second choice for the civil rights movement became this icon that all of us look to today and say to ourselves, oh, if only we had more Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s in the world. But you see, in fact, he was a second choice. Just like Ida B. Wells, when she came here, was a second choice. The other person that you may know who is a second choice is someone who is a descendant of these great people from the island of Jamaica. You see, they said that these Jamaican slaves would never amount to anything. Some people even said they weren't even human beings, right? And they shouldn't be given any rights at all whatsoever. But this second choice descendant is living here in the United Kingdom today. He's in his 50s. Not only has he accomplished great and marvelous and miraculous things, but he's the only person in the United Kingdom who earns £1 million every day. Do you know him? His name is Chris Hahn, a descendant of Jamaicans. Were you aware of that? In fact, in your present Prime Minister, you have some, and I'm not going to talk politics, don't panic, that you have two candidates now, right, vying for the position of Prime Minister in that one party. Well, one of those candidates is a gentleman by the name of, what's his name again? It's Mr. Sunak. But did you know where he got his start? In Chris Hahn's company, working as a CPA for this Jamaican, this second choice. Did you realize that when the winner, this so-called Windrush generation, were brought here to the United Kingdom, that they were the second choice? That after the World War, the British government at first brought other Europeans to try to fill the factory jobs that were going lacking. But what happened was it didn't work out so well. So they brought you and your foreparents, their second choice. And so your second choice today is one of the wealthiest men on the face of the earth, Mr. Hahn, and a person who is deeply connected to someone who may or may not become your next Prime Minister. There is something unique and special about the second choice. There was also this little young man who they said he spent his time in high school smoking marijuana and playing basketball. And when the election time came around, the person who was the first choice was a remarkable, amazing young lady by the name of Hillary Rodham Clinton. The second choice of the Democratic Party that year was this little boy who they said smoked marijuana in high school. You may have heard of him, Barack Obama. So this second choice for the Democratic Party became the president of what is today, I know I'm in Britain, so I should be saying great things, but in the greatest country besides Great Britain on the face of the earth, the United States of America. Isn't that amazing? It's amazing what happens with these second choices. You just saw earlier televised for you, what's her name? Thompson Harrell, is that her name? The young lady who was running. Did you know that in 1995 at the champs in Jamaica, the championship games in Jamaica, she placed fourth, and she became the second choice of her then high school team to represent them anywhere on the island of Jamaica. In fact, later on, she earned a silver medal in this world championship game. And so the country of Jamaica were thinking, this woman clearly is our second choice. But just like that word that we spoke about earlier, that Jamaicans have difficulty saying, what is it? Tree. This woman led a team of other women to come in at the Olympics. What was it? 1, 2, 3. Right? Amazing, isn't it? What a second choice is able to accomplish. Even Her Majesty the Queen, her family, is a second choice. Did you realize that? That her family is a second choice because someone stepped down. Right? It's amazing that as we celebrate her this year and all the things that she's been able to accomplish for the entire commonwealth, that this woman's family had been a second choice. Never, never, never underestimate the second choice. You see, when I started out, I finished my last year of high school in New York. And when I was in my last year of high school in New York, my counselor in high school told me, listen, she said, what do you want to become? I said, I would like to become an attorney. She said, no, you'll never become an attorney. You should go after something that's more attainable, more achievable, she said. Why don't you become a paralegal? After I left and graduated from that high school, I went on to Cornell University for my undergraduate degree. At Cornell, the students that I was going to school with, I know it's not as great as your university here, but the students I was at school with at that time, everyone kept coming by asking me, these are the best in the brackets, right? These are the Ivy League students. They said, how do you feel living here? And I said, oh, it feels great. But I've been living in New York for years. They said, no, how does it feel to sleep on a bed as opposed to sleeping on a tree in Jamaica where you're from? You see, all of us underestimate the second choice. Right? We always think that there are these people who are not going to be able to accomplish anything, so we underrate who they are. Is that right? Right? It's the same thing that happens with, just imagine our Sikh brothers and sisters who are here. Right? There were 9 Sikh gurus before Guru Nanak. Is that right? But Guru Nanak, the 10th guru, right, the second choice, is the most important person in Sikhism today. When I got into law school, I know everyone thought there was no way this little kid, whose mother is a housekeeper, cleaning toilets in Long Island, New York, would ever be able to make it. I was everyone's second choice. But I graduated from law school, and then I went to work as a prosecutor in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. And they underrated me there as well. I was their second choice. So you know the first case that they gave me when I was there was a case to prosecute 2 men for raping a young lady who said in her statement, I slept with these men in the past in exchange for crack and cocaine and money. But this time, A.D. Hemming, they raped me. No one else in the office would take the case, Simon. But so they gave it to their second choice. They said, give it to him, he's new in the office. Well, I won that case, not because I was great, but because they underestimated me, just like they always underestimated all of these Jamaicans. There is this bagel shop. I don't know if it's everywhere, but I know of in Leeds. It's called Bagel Nash. Have you ever heard of it? Bagel Nash in Leeds. Well, Bagel Nash, that is a chain of bagel stores, is actually a store started by another set of people who were everyone's second choice. They were a large Jamaican Jewish family named Nash, N-A-S-H. And so they started this entire bagel conglomerate called Bagel Nash, as opposed to Bagel Nash. Get it? The play on words. In the same way with every Chinese person who came to Jamaica, and every person of Indian descent who came to Jamaica, they came as a second choice. They came to Jamaica as indentured servants, after the end of slavery. They were the second choice. But no one would call them the second choice today, would they? Because the Matalons and the Issas and the Chinloy family, to whom my sister was married into that family, they're Jamaica's largest exporter of the cola nuts. And anyone who drank Coca-Cola at any time in your life, they are the exclusive distributors for that one ingredient in Coca-Cola from this little tiny island of Jamaica, a second choice. The point here this evening is this. I remember going into U.S. District Court when I was serving as special counsel. I was supervising over 235 attorneys. But I went in because an attorney failed to show up. The judge at the time when I went in, and I sat at, I don't know if the courts are the same here, but you have the prosecutor's table and you have the defendant's table. I went in to stand up for that prosecutor. When I went in, the judge came to the bench, all rise, I stood up. He looked at me and he said, boy, you need to go back outside and wait for your attorney to get here. People always underestimate the second choice. So his courtroom deputy turned to me and she says, no, judge, this is Special Counsel Norman Hemming. In fact, your son, your daughter, and your son-in-law worked for him. And so he looked at me and he started laughing. He said, oh, I knew that. I was just kidding around. Never underestimate the second choice. All of you in here at some point in your life, except for the Lord Mayo, because she was always number one. And Simon as well. But all of us in here at some point in our lives, we've been a second choice. Someone has told us that we weren't good enough. But just like the Dahomey Agoji, who you call the Amazons, the Dahomey Amazons, you too, as a second choice, have a great, amazing, far-reaching future that's larger and more impressive than anyone on the face of the earth could ever imagine. Just like Chris Hahn earning £1 million every day as a descendant of Jamaicans. Just like this young lady you've never heard of, her name is Claudette Colvin. You see, in the United States, you may have heard of Rosa Parks. You ever heard of her? Moving to the back of the bus. Do you know she was the second choice? There was actually a 15-year-old little girl called Claudette Colvin who refused to get up from her seat months before Rosa Parks. But they didn't proceed with that case at the time. So now we know about the second choice. Rosa Parks as being the most important person. Don't listen to what anyone else tells you. Whether you're white, or Indian, or Chinese, or African, or whatever your background, whatever it is that you see as your ethnicity, or who it is, or how you define yourselves, never let anyone tell you that you're just a second choice. Because I believe Birmingham, I believe AJN, I believe that this little country, this little island called Jamaica, just like this other bigger island called Britain, you're always a second choice. But you're greater today than everyone's expectation of you. And your tomorrow is not yet written, but it will be even more glorious if you will continue to believe in yourself. And the future of Jamaica for the next 60 years will be unlike what happened with the Ouida people who lasted for 60 years. These Jamaicans will have another 60 years, and should God tarry, another 60 years after that. Because these people who have always been underrated, always been seen as second class, are going to become even mightier and stronger than you've seen them today in academia, in politics, in medicine, and in every area that you can think of. Thank you so very much for allowing me to be with you at this stage or this evening to talk to you, and I'm so glad that you are someone's second choice and that your future is great. If you could stand as I close now and say another phrase. It's another tweet phrase. It is Ani Aye Adusia Manu. Perfect. Right? It says happy 60th to the second choice. God bless you.